And welcome back to Revolution Radio. Jay and Scott still sitting in. So our last episode last week was kind of different than it's been in a while because usually we like to do 20, 30-minute segments. Actually, I'd say 15 to 20-minute segments, but they get long. But last week's episode was just a very long form conversation about the UFO sightings and what our government knows and what the military has seen and what they reported, what hasn't been reported, what scientists have said, so on and so forth. With me asking some
And the
very
culmination of the report in June.
yes, and we're talking about that, and with me asking just incredibly naive questions because I felt someone should, uh, and we had some. We had quite a few interactions with that, to be honest, and enough people who had their own ideas and their own questions. So we thought we would just kind of revisit that a little bit, maybe do a little bit of update. I'm not exactly sure uh, how much more of an update there is. I do know that when we recorded that last episode, we had not seen, I believe it's Navy data had been released. We had
Yeah,
referenced it anyway.
right.
If yeah,
The actual radar tracking from the warships, where they were tracking up to, I think it was like 17 or 12 different UFOs at the same time, because a lot of scientists, people who, and even people who kind of pose as scientists, were kind of coming out into the general, like Joe Rogan, and there's some YouTubers that are kind of large on the science scene and going, well, we don't have data, we don't have pictures. Pictures are silly. I don't just, that kind of thing, and going along the lines of basically, no. These pilots are just making errors. These pilots are seeing things. I don't believe, even if they
Aurora
say there's radar
Borealis,
tracking.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's probably Venus, or those, it's swamp gas from the ocean, and it's a little bit disheartening for two people who I consider to be the most inquisitive people, to not take the subject seriously when and dismiss it as just once again demeaning some of these people when they're actually offering you confirmation that there's something they don't recognize, and it ain't the Russians and it's not the Chinese. In other words, they don't. I'm pretty sure Uncle Sam doesn't think it's literally that kind of threat, because if it was, we're talking war like kind of threats,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're not going to war.
No, you're right. And I mean, to be fair to like a Neil deGrasse Tyson, I do think that you're never gonna get a candid,
No.
um, you know, you're never gonna get him speaking candidly about UFOs because he's smart enough to know the game, and he knows that, especially on like Joe Rogan, um, you understand if he said, "Well, yeah, that could be possible." Every story would be Neil deGrasse Tyson says aliens exist and they are here. You know what I'm saying? Like you were talking about clickbait, and I'm sure a lot of that is
Well,
these guys trying
Neil
to
deGrasse
avoid
Tyson
it.
would never say that aliens don't exist. I mean, he would never say that. His point is they would never. There's no reason for them to come here, and this even though warp drives is mathematically possible, they don't have. No, they're not
Right.
coming
No,
here.
and the thing, but like, and I guess the scientists go to, and I think that it's kind of why we love science in a way, is that science's whole thing is to disprove a theory. That's why I love science because like when
To
science
prove
is
or disprove.
well, yeah, but when science is correct, you know it's correct because it's been scrutinized by other scientists and data has been scrutinized by others. So you have to
Peer
believe the
reviewed.
data. Yeah. And so like I wouldn't come down too hard on him to be honest, but I understand what you're saying, and I think that was part of some of the comments that were made about me too. Is they're like,
Right, and
would
I'm
you
not
think they're
damning him
gonna?
for wanting data. I mean,
I think we all do,
I'm
right?
not damning him for wanting data. Yeah, I mean, we do need data. I want as much as possible, and I just want, put it this way, his his belittling the subject comes from a point of ignorance, and I say this not as from a scientific standpoint, but just from a how much, if there's any other subject, and I know the CIA has invested money in all kinds of wacky shit, men who stare at goats kind of stuff, but those things don't elapse 80 years. Remember, 80 years of there being things that the government has had to run campaigns and investigations to basically dismiss these things year after year after year after year, and at the same time investing billions of dollars in actual investigations and reports that go directly to the Defense Department and the CIA. So they are running two information campaigns for 80 years. And if our government, of course, it's easy to say, and this is what Tyson says many times, if our government's, they're so fallible. If there was, this is one of his exact points, there would be a leak. There would be, stuff would get out. They're just a sieve. Well, not really, especially when you compartmentalize things to a level that involves we will murder you like a mob if you open your mouth. And there are many instances, many, including our first Secretary of Defense, our very first one, who was, quote, involved, and this is not conspiracy theory as much as it is, we know these people got together as a group when the Eisenhower administration, or the Truman administration, after Roswell, there was kind of like, it's called the Majestic 12, the MJ-12 thing. We know these people actually got together as a group, and one of them was our first Secretary of Defense, Forrestal. And just after he started having issues to his family, who he openly said, I need to tell the American people something. He was a super, super honest, super straight line guy, and he was a big time patriot. Somehow, he just had a nervous breakdown and jumped out of a 13-story window minutes before his brother was there to pick him up. Our first Secretary of Defense jumped, quote, to his death just because there were things that he wanted to, quote, tell the American people. And so this is a serious topic, that deaths and suicides and everything, and we're not talking.
Are you
Oh, go ahead.
in saying that potentially we had a situation like the journalists in Russia have experienced? Are you making that correlation at all there, Scott?
Would I say the CIA or this was right when the Air Force was brand new? They had just kind of. Am I saying that the only nuclear base in history, the first one where the Enola Gay took off from, in the same place where even the generals, they announced they had a flying saucer crash, and then they went back and corrected it. You're telling me they accidentally told everyone they had a flying saucer? And it was just a balloon. Our military, and that's from the only nuclear base in the United States at that time. That's how stupid they are? No, man. There's too many secrets for this topic for 80 years to have kept the interest of not only our most elite, but the highest levels of government and the highest levels of funding for just swamp gas. That's where I think Neil deGrasse Tyson fails in putting together the enormity of whatever this subject encompasses, because it sure isn't some black book program for the F-17 or some new fighter or anything like that, because they still don't have the answers. And if 80 years is quite a long time for some magic, fighter that they've held back for 80 years, because they're still working on it. No, it's just, it's not collating the data correctly, and he wants it to be. He's a front man, and like you said, he doesn't want that blowback because he's a spokesperson. It's easy for him to admit something
he
after.
shouldn't be on something like that. Like, the dude is like a physics genius, and I think the problem is nobody is going to be interested in hearing him talk about physics and like the Big Bang Theory nearly
Well, he's a
as,
cosmologist. He's not
you
a
know.
physicist. He's a cosmologist.
Yeah,
So he loves to talk
if you've
about
heard him
story time.
if you've heard him like
You know,
break down the Big Bang though, like he understands an advanced amount of physics and like, but again, that's boring to most people. So yeah, I get where he is, where he's at, and having to do
well, his
this.
story
And then
times
let's
with
be
Joe
honest too.
Rogan are
Oh
educating Joe on like the simplest scientific
yeah,
principles. And Joe's like, no way,
right,
you know,
yes.
because he's super stoned every time, and he's like mind blown
And
because Joe,
let's be honest too.
yeah,
Like I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson at this point in his life, he did like Cosmos and things like that. He's been kind of a like the rock star scientist, you know,
oh
and
yeah, he's a celebrity,
he
absolutely.
wants to keep that, I'm sure. Like he's not gonna go back to like Miki Okachi and be like just this like lab monkey that can barely even speak English anymore because
Oh,
of how
Miku
much.
Kaku,
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
like.
yeah.
You can't even speak to the dude. I mean, he's so advanced. Like you know, like
Yeah,
when
he's definitely
you're
he
talking to
orates to
higher
the
people.
general public very well, and everybody likes him for it because he's so excited. He makes
Right,
it's like
yeah.
Barry White telling you about the universe, you know?
No, no, exactly. And I'm sure like that's his niche, and I get all that, but and he doesn't want to ruin it either because it's easier to just play down the middle and whatever. Um, but and I think like personally, and this is one thing that like just now to get into because we are running out of time. Uh, or answer a question. But basically, one of that's regarding me because I don't have much of a horse in this race. I've taken a I'm interested. I think it's definitely possible. I would never downplay this at all. And what the government lie to me? Of course I believe they would. But somebody had point the had asked like so because I was asking you um, that I think it's messed up that we don't have any like footage. There's like no camera, with all of the. And honestly, I think it's something that Neil deGrasse Tyson said as well. And let it be said, our conversation recorded like 3 weeks ago. uh, I'm just saying, maybe I brought it up before he did. That's all I'm saying. But I did bring out to you. I said, well, like, how come there isn't better camera? We have cameras everywhere. Everyone has this high def, 8, 12 megapixel, 16 megapixel camera that's in our phone or in our
Hmm.
pocket, and I just brought that fact up, and so somebody commented and they said, would you really think somebody like Google, who has cameras all over the world, is going to just share that information? And look, uh, just to comment, like, no, I don't know. I don't think so. But I do believe it. Like, I'm not skeptical to the point that I don't believe it's real. Or if you told me, or we find out more in June, that I'm gonna be like, no, no, that's not true. Like I said, I'm very neutral to believing it's there. So I just wanted to point that out because there was a lot of people who were like saying like
Well, and let
I'm
me
a
say something.
non-believer or something.
Well, I was just going to say that we did touch on the camera thing before, and let me reiterate the difference between your camera phone and a high end, telephoto serious lens that can actually scale in on an object. When you take a picture of your phone, it's not a telephoto lens. It takes a general wide picture. And yes, it may be 14 megapixel, but if something is in the sky and it's not close to you, it's going to be out of focus,
No,
period.
and that's the thing too. If you take a picture, I mean, if you take a picture in a poorly lit room, it looks like crap. Like,
Yeah,
and that's something like you're trying to take a picture of, and it's just more poorly lit. But anyway, um, so on to the questions because I think that's probably what we're here for.
it.
Um, so yeah, a listener who I wish I had brought up names. I just have this on the email itself. Um, who asked you if nothing comes out post, and they actually gave the date of July 15th. I don't know why, but they said if nothing comes out post July 15th. Do you think that the average person is just gonna how do I say this? They didn't use the right word. They're going to lose the excitement, and is it just going to go back to basically people who still believe that there's aliens and whatever, and then the majority of the people thinking they're crazy, as
And
per
it's going to damn them.
yeah, as per right now, everyone is on board with thinking that this is real. So I mean, what do you think? Like post July 15th, nothing comes out.
And yeah, the talking heads have been talking this up like crazy, and that's because it has the backing of freaking Democrats. So, I mean, Harry Reid and some of these other people who fought vigorously the Defense Department and the CIA to not only get verification of these programs, and the defector, well, he's not really a defector, but he's, retired from the ATIP program. They were spending millions upon millions and millions of dollars on this stuff. I mean, we need an answer why the government has consistently thrown billions of dollars at what supposedly is just vapor. You know what I mean? And that in itself is more of a scandal than any politician that you can imagine. So it's kind of, if they don't give us anything, it's going to embolden the talking heads to keep this subject alive, and it's going to, I don't think it's going to go away. I think they're going to have to give us something.
You think it's going to have like an opposite effect than what is this person? Their fear, I think, is the fact that if nothing comes out by July 15th, that the momentum will be gone. But you
I
think
don't
it's
think
actually going
so.
to go opposite.
It's way too late. It's way too late because all the videos released from the fighters and from the radar images and the radar data and all of these high level, as high as you can just get, military officials, and then the Pentagon saying, yes, it's these photos, this video, this data is real, it's verified. We don't know what it is. That's it. That's all you had to do to basically start the new fire under their ass. And we need to know, exactly. We need to know things, but who knows what they're going to tell us. I don't think they're going to tell us that, oh, we were just bullshitting again. It's just a weather balloon. They're not going to do that. These pilots, these are some of the highest trained, most expensively trained people in the world. Air Force jet pilots are basically astronauts. So that's who becomes astronauts very often, by the way. So, I mean, these people are, if you can't take the word of the most highly trained, extremely intelligent people who understand everything in their airspace, when they see an anomaly that doesn't fit anything that they were trained for, drone, blah, 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 they know all these other objects, and they go, whoa, what the fuck are you? They freak out. There's a reason for that. There is a reason. These people are not just like, well, I could have been confused by a drone. No, dude, please. I just can't accept that they're hallucinating, and they're hallucinating radar as well. It's just the cat's out of the bag.
So, okay, this is probably my favorite question because, for one, there's a Dave Chappelle reference, which I love. Um, but is there any way that if they, sorry, I phrase this wrong. Let me rephrase this. Um, if they come out and say that this is all fake, that this has been staged, or they have an explanation for everything that does not point to this being aliens, would you believe it? What would it take? Like just a bunch of military guys, the CIA, the FBI, your wife, a written note from your mom? What would it take for you to say, okay, maybe this wasn't UFOs?
Well,
And
if you're telling me that
is there anything, by the way, is like
if
the
this
first
is a
question.
false flag, remember, a false flag that is a continuance of 80 years of them doing these things, from Blue Book to, I mean, it would almost be more of a tragedy of just government itself. Not only do they not want to come clean about something they're supposedly, and have already admitted they don't know what it is, seeing these things do things that our aircraft could never do, and a pilot would become jello making a right-hand turn at supersonic speeds, then, and it all be just like, well, we were just kidding. I think literally
Like,
that would undermine
is there
so
any
much of our government.
is there any explanation? And that'd be fair because that's what he said. Is there any explanation that would make you go, "Oh, okay, I guess that wasn't UFOs"?
Well, first of all, UFO, of course, I want to reiterate, it doesn't mean alien,
Right,
and
right.
UAP doesn't mean alien.
And he did say
Uh,
aliens and not UFO. I put UFO, but
well,
yeah, did say
well, if it was
aliens.
advanced octopuses under the ocean that we didn't know had their own advanced civilization, I would be a little harder to accept than some robot drone that travels through space and watches like I say, watches the funny monkey people from a distance. I mean, to me, it's Occam's razor. What's more likely that for 80 years our government has tried to cover up things that for 80 years our pilots, remember, going over Europe, were seeing things. I mean, that were bombing Germany. I mean, these are not new things. There have been so many instances back in 51 or 52, flying over the White House, scrambling jets, addresses to. This is not the first time that our government has high level addressed the public investigations. They did it in 1950s. I mean, there is a reason all this is culminating now. It's because I think people can accept the fact. There was a story today that said scientists find out that our solar system is ... pretty normal over the place.
Well,
Water,
yeah.
everything else. What kind of idiot wants to think that we're... That's what bothers me about people who go, oh, it could never be. That is so like human centric. I mean, it
So,
really is.
so short answer, no, there is nothing that could be that could be revealed as the answer that would make you go, okay, it's not aliens.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
I'm
no,
of
it's
the
fair. No,
opinion
that's
now.
fair. That's fair. Um, someone else had a question. We only got time for like two
There is
more.
one. There is one thing.
Okay.
Demonstrate it. If you said no, it's actually our shit. Show me. Show me that. And then if you can show me that we have craft that can go from the sky to the ocean and travel at supersonic speeds under the ocean as well, you show me, that would terrify every other power on Earth. They would be so fucking scared of us. There would be every treaty would be signed instantly because we would be God at that point. I want to just say how defining the level of technology is. We would literally terrify the rest of the world with that kind of tech. So show me, and I will say, damn, we badass, dude.
I think it's just Bruce Valanche farting, but no.
I think it's Kit in the evolution of Knight Rider.
The other question, like, so apparently this person is really into like the Easter Island heads. Uh, Wanted to know if you thought there was, now that we're okay, let me read the question. Now that
It's
we
an
are
ancient
finding
aliens question.
Essentially, now that we are finding more and more sculptures that are perfectly asymmetric, that have been carved out from hundreds, thousands of years ago, do you think that they have any sort of uh, uh, correlation to the UFOs? And then they cite, apparently last year in Canada, there was some other like hedge, stone hedge kind of face that was found that was 16 feet tall. I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
2 years ago, there was one found in Brazil, that
right.
is huge. And like basically, yeah, like I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's any correlation with UFOs and aliens and stuff and these
Do I have an?
faces?
I think throughout history that we've seen shit in the sky, and we've also, you know, reproduced that in a lot of artwork. But do not underestimate the people who lived 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 years ago. They weren't dumber than we are. And so the only thing that ever kept anybody stupid is the fact that they had no written language or ability to. They were only orating history, and it's hard to transfer information. Don't underestimate pre ocean level rises. Basically, when the post or pre ice age, there are civilizations that we have yet to dig up, and don't underestimate the ingenuity of mankind.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I
We
think it's
lots
fair.
of civilizations all over the world. We are We do amazing things, and I don't think that aliens want to come help us build shit out of stone. You
Right.
know,
No, and
we
that's
figured out all that stuff.
that take is why I tend to go with you when it comes to UFO and alien talk because I think that's fair. Um, so for the final question, um, do you believe that there is any alien tech that we currently use, and if so, what do you think it is?
Um, I don't think we use jack shit alien technology. If you want to look at Philip Corso's novel, The Day After Roswell, it's an absolute bottle of bullshit. That guy made up stuff like, well, fiber optics and lasers, we got that from aliens. No, we didn't. They were developing that during the time of Alexander Graham Bell. So these things are literally everything that guy says. Like night vision was removed from their. They had contacts that gave them night vision. No, we understand. All that's a lie. That entire book was a ploy to get his family money because he was dying. So no, absolutely not. I think if we've recovered anything, and they do say that we have recovered quote exotic materials, and exactly what Bob Lazar said after he came out in the late '80s, he said they have no idea how this shit works. It is so alien in a sense, supposedly from the craft. There are no control panels. There's no nothing. It is so alien to them. They don't know. They put it away for 10 years, pull it back out and go, anybody look at this? Nobody can figure it out. It's got to be like dropping, an F-35 into Egypt and say, okay, make me another one.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's fair too. Now, I'm sitting on at least, God, there's probably 25, 30 questions, not alone the comments. You know what? Is until they actually release the uh what is it called? The commission, whatever they're doing. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
exactly sure. Until that comes out, we until we find data that's released from the officials. Hell, every week I'll just go through here and pick out some questions. We will finish it up. I know you said you're afraid of beating a dead horse, but I think it's something people like to talk about, and it is a nice little downgrade from the politics and the
And
seriousness of
and
all
this,
that, and
and
so
this horse, even if we're beating it, which that doesn't sound exactly right, we could ride off into the sunset because the implications of what if people are given, and the government has said, by the way, that you're not seeing the good photos or they're only releasing a lot of things that are very simplistic for certain reasons, and that's easy to believe as well. If they do have and provide us with some, I don't know, some real amazing stuff, its implications are very positive for the rest of us. I don't think people are going to be terrified. They're not going to come here and eat us or do anything else. It will expand the world and the horizon for people who may have closed minds about just how giant our universe is.
no, that's a really good point. No, and I think like this is one of those things. Like if we were working our way up to, I don't know, an election, we would be talking about it.
Yeah,
Every
and
show.
maybe someday we
Um,
will be able
we
to
are.
decode and understand. We're organizing matter at the atomic level now, how we want to. So soon enough, it may be that they are starting to figure this stuff out, and they don't want to freak people the hell out when we do start making some of our own things that are similar. So it is a good time to tell people, hey, if you see this crazy shit, it may be some of ours because we finally have started to decode and understand this technology.
Yeah, fair enough. No, but and so until this commission comes out, I'm gonna go through these. If you have any questions or comments that you want me to look over, just put an attention J on it or something. Especially if it's a comment. Most of the questions I can kind of pick out. I'll try to do my best to find out different ones from different platforms. If you're on BitChute and YouTube, I kind of ignore you guys, and I apologize. I won't. I will try to pay more attention. We don't get a lot of comments on either one of those, but the other platforms, we do obviously, and 24/7 as well. So, but yeah, just put attention, Jay, and then I'll go through it, and we'll just kind of do this until this commission comes out. We'll just have Scott answer questions because I think that number one, I think Scott loves it, and number two, I think it's a good way to talk about it because I'm not going to be a person who can formulate a discussion about any of this. I don't know enough about it. So anyway, though, guys, we really appreciate you tuning in. I think the rest of the yeah, should be the rest of the month will be regularly scheduled. I know we've got different events coming in and out. The summers are always difficult, and to be completely honest, I have a fairly new baby, and that's making life a lot of fun. But I think we've got some stuff figured out. But we should have pretty regular shows. If we don't, we will drop more of those long form conversation shows, maybe with a interview with a comic sprinkled in here or there. We'll keep content coming up, but we appreciate you. You guys take care.